This is probably the last video of the Guilty Gear Strive tips and tricks for beginners, and today I would like to talk about defense, because it's very important in a fighting game not only to take back your turn, but to also know when your turn is done and when you have to block, because everybody has to block, right? Because you're mashing a bunch of buttons and something like this will probably happen to you, right? So yeah, good luck. But for those of you who want to interact with people and you're saying, alright, well, I want to actually play the game, let me learn how to block. Well, this video is great for you because I'm going to teach you defense. And like always, I will say this is for beginners and intermediates. I don't think if you're an advanced player, you're going to learn much from this, but still, you never know. So let's break down the very essence of defense. The whole point of defense is not to block, but is to survive until your turn is once again yours, right? Especially in this game, I don't really try and define defense as blocking so much as I try to define defense as surviving, because just blocking will definitely help you from not getting deleted, but it won't necessarily put you in a better state. For example, if she keeps blocking this, right? This is +2. Technically, if I keep doing this, she can't mash a faster button than like 5p, right? And I can keep doing this. So, you know, your entire goal is not just to block. Your entire goal is to interrupt the defense in order to put yourself in a better scenario. That's why I say defense is more about working your advantage rather than working your defense or working your blocks. Okay, so what can you do defensively to take back your turn? Because we've already associated that just blocking isn't a very good answer, and sometimes you need to just block, right? So let me get that out the way first. Sometimes you need to just block. Trust me, other times you can mash back, you can do whatever, but for example, if you try to mash back in this game a lot of times, let's use Giovanna's 5p. This is a 4-frame button, so okay, well, she was blocking and tried to mash back. What happened? Okay, so time to break it down. The way I think about it in terms of blocking in this game, you mostly have two options if you're trying to block, right? And that's, well, not just two options, but let's start with two options for first, right? So if you're trying to block, you can mash back a lot, because in this game, believe it or not, because Gatlings end usually in this, after that's done, if a person doesn't do that and keeps trying to do this, you know, running up and pressing a button, mash back is a pretty good idea, because even if you do block the move, right, you get a good mash. And what does that mean? That means that you get to take your turn back, which for a character like Giovanna, that could mean time to mix, right? Or time to make them uncomfortable, or time to grab, right? So it just depends on what your options are after that. So you can always try and jab back, and that's a good option. The other option is to take the block string, because if you always do jab back, then that could happen, right? We don't want that, because now you just died off of pressing a button, right? And that's always the worst feeling. So sometimes you need to just take the block string. What does that mean? That means just let them do it. It is a lot of risky that you're going to be taking sometimes, but sometimes it's just better to take the block string. Not everybody is going to be willing enough to keep just pressing buttons over and over and over again, because there comes with a little bit of risk. So a good idea is to take the block string sometimes, right? Don't do anything. This is sometimes the best option in these situations, right? Because look at it like this. If they do choose to frame trap, their turn is over, and then you're at this neutral ground space where you can try and press buttons, try and hit around and play some more neutral, right? And the sad thing is that if they keep pressing buttons, eventually you'll stop. Or eventually you need to mash back, right? It is a mind game, but that's the best thing about fighting games. Okay. So you're thinking, alright, well, mash back and just block are pretty boring options. What else can I do? Well, you can also backdash. A lot of people bind this to a button. You can go to buttons and hit backdash and just bind it to like something like your right trigger so you can dash a lot. I don't have it bound because I don't like binding buttons in fighting games or in any game in general, because I like the input coming out by myself, right? But a lot of good players bound buttons, so it doesn't make you any worse of a player. I just prefer to do backdashes manually, right? And if you are struggling and doing backdashes manually, you know it's not coming out. It's all in the timing, right? So make sure you're inputting it at the right time. And a little way to trick yourself into inputting it is by hitting a Tatsu input and then hitting back afterwards. Because the way backdashes work is double tapping back. So if you have an input that ends in back, you can hit back one more time to actually get the backdash. So I'm gonna do half circle back again like this. And that's backdash. Look at the commands. It goes up, down, forward, down, there, and back again, and it'll hit a button. And this is good because it helps you not have to time it as much, right? A little bit like a Korean backdash. But if you're asking why this is good, it's because you're hitting Tatsu before like this, it gives you a little bit of IB frames. So say Giovanna is just, you know, doing stuff like that, right? If I'm in the middle of the block string, me buffering the backdash like that makes it so that if she chooses to go for the heavy slash, instead I'll get backdash. Or if she chooses to Gatling into a move that hits like forward like that, I can also keep holding block because I'm technically holding down back block. And sometimes if I do it really fast, I get IB, right? So that's a good idea. So backdash is another good tactic to use on defense because some characters aren't that scary after backdash, especially when they don't call it out. So let me give you a good example here. Let's look at if Giovanna backdashes one of Soul's far slash. By the way, if she doesn't, from round start, right? And look at the risk. However, if she chooses to backdash it, oh look, she's already away from the pressure, right? Nothing can really reach her unless I hard call it out. Well, not even. Yeah, right? Maybe Bandit Bringer? Bandit Bringer may hit there. But in terms of everything else, she's away. And this is really good, right? Backdash is actually really good in this game. This is a really good option because once you do backdash, you get to play neutral again. So if somebody is ever getting really ham on the strings and they're trying to press button, don't forget to backdash. Because if you do backdash, you're creating more neutral space, and depending on what character you're playing, you have another chance to get in, right? Backdash is very good in this game. And the best thing about backdashes is that sometimes they can dodge moves. So I'm going to do close slash in the 2D. Right? Look, I just went through my backdash. Or close slash to 2 slash into 2S. Sometimes it dodges. 2S is different because the hitbox in it is so long. But 2K is a good example, right? So if she doesn't backdash that usually, I get a frame trap, right? But if she does backdash that, or then yeah. But just like everything else, backdash also loses to something. And what does backdash lose to? Backdash loses to, well, run up, right? Because it has end frame. Or it loses to a simple frame trap, but a delayed frame trap. You want to move to hit them basically where they're going to show up. And not every character has a move that has that purpose, but you can also chase backdashes, and you can also grab. Right? You can probably also even super, I don't know, but... Right? In terms of backdashes, they help you build space and they're good, but don't always use them because look what happens if you use them too much. Danger penalty and negative penalty. So be careful of not backdashing all the time, but it is a very good tool to use if you're trying to gauge distances. Maybe you're trying to whiff a normal on somebody. It's a very good tool. So don't forget about backdash. Alright. What else can you do on defense? Another option that people like to do on defense, which I don't really advise you to do, is to jump, right? So a lot of people, what they'll do is that they'll choose to jump after a button. Usually it's a backwards jump, or it's a jump into like a backdash. This can be a very bad option because this only really beats grab, right? Like if you whiff a normal on ground, look how fast the next normal comes, right? So jumping is not a very good option in this game. And if somebody really wants to call it out late, they can, because air grab hits so low to the ground. The only thing jump really beats are like committing into like hard normals or baiting out in neutral. So I really wouldn't recommend jump on block. I mean on defense. And once you get hit in the air after you jump, you're forced into like jumping negative frames, which means that these frames when you're on the ground, you see, you're all in block stun for that entire time, which is why she jumps. When Giovanna jumps, that's when she's out of block stun. So technically, if you're trying to jump to escape pressure, well, you just get right back into it, right? And it makes certain moves which were punishable a lot less punishable. So for example, let's try Air Bandit Bringer. Punishable move usually. Now she can't punish it because she decided to jump block it. Same thing with things like Bandit, like that. Now you have to hold that. So it's not always a good idea to jump. Be careful when you jump. All right. So now we've talked about all your options basically without meter, which include mash back, backdash, and, you know, everything else. So what are your options with meter? So with meter, first I'm gonna explain the simplest one, which is Roman cancel. YRC. Oh no, that's the entirely wrong thing. Where's YRC at? There you go. YRC. So what is YRC? YRC makes it so that, boom, you get people off you. This is a really good scenario because if you actually hit somebody, it's your turn, so you get to force a mix. Right here, you can't really guess the grab, so you have to just take it. The only thing you could really do after YRC is just commit, right? So like, press a button, don't press a button, block, or just hold the grab. It's a scenario where I am plus, like it's your turn there, right? So YRC can be good, but it's also really easily baitable, right? Because if it hits off of light normals, you know. And you can usually tell when a person wants to YRC because they start, you know, no one wants to use 50% mirror to do something like that, but they do it because they feel like they have nothing else to do. So if you can properly bait the YRC, right, and hit off of a you know, a normal that isn't that good, or even just bait out that early, it is a good use of meter, but the whole point of YRCing is when you just can't take it anymore. You can't bait it is what I'm trying to say, right? And in addition to all of that, it also loses to grab, because in order for you to YRC, you first have to block a normal. Meaning that if you don't press any normals, all they're doing is blocking and doing this. So sometimes, if they do mess it up and just get a regular YRC, right? Well, you can still go and enforce your turn if you have the meter. So that is a option where we just feel like it can help, but I wouldn't really recommend it, right? All right. So you also have a lot of other options with you also have a lot of other options with meter. And what do those options come with? We have FD. What is FD? Also known as flawless defense. It's when you have a blue greenish shield around you, and it basically makes it so that every time you block something, it pushes you back farther. But you come out of block a little bit slower. A little bit, like 2 frames, right? So what does this mean, right? So look at eating a regular far slash from Soul at round start. Right? And now I'm looped, and eventually I'm getting closer to you, right? And your risk gauge is like that. So if you choose to FD, look what actually happens. You see? So there's the clear difference. 1, he's gained no risk. The Giovanna has gained no risk. And 2, I'm not in a good position to mash back, right? Because after I block this and I whiff this full screen, I can't cancel into anything. Like, if Soul's far slash cannot reach you, the only thing that can is success. And even if she does FD that, she's still so far away that she can back that. She can air dash in on a move. So if you are gonna be committed to a block string and you feel like, man, I can't deal with this, I want to FD to get out, FD is a very good option because it pushes people out. And once you're at this distance, now you replay neutral to find a better way to get in. However, FD unfortunately does not remove Guard Crush. So, one, Guard Crush on block does a lot of damage, and where it really becomes a little dangerous, right, is off of actual damage, right? So, after you've done damage in a combo, hitting with a meaty Guard Crush is really good because it resets the scaling on certain moves and also leads into more damage. So look. Sorry. Alright. So, that's really good because the health doesn't decrease. That's all like, it's taking more and more one chip damage implicated by the red and a lot of risk. So, you can be in a very dangerous situation there. FD makes it so that you don't take the chip damage, but it doesn't really remove the guard break effect because it's still your turn. So FD doesn't lose to these kind of moves, but it also doesn't really do much against them for it to matter. It only really decreases your health, or only really keeps your health the same, which helps a lot in certain matchups, but you know, look how much bar you're losing for taking that. You already lost like 60% for taking a bunch of those. So, yeah. But also, FD loses hard to grab because you can't do anything from FD besides FD and maybe jump. You can input jump if you let go of FD for a second and try an FD when you're in the air. But aside from that, FD does nothing. You can't move once you FD. The only thing you could do off of FD is either dash forward or sit and block. It literally stops your backwards movement back. It literally stops your movement back. So once you have FD, you're here to stay. Which means that sometimes if you just waste it on the ground, you may stop my pressure and grab, right? Because if you cannot move, then you can't move away from my grab. And if you choose to FD, you can tech out of the grab, but that's such a hard bait for something that you don't know about, right? And if you do at the wrong time, back to the same situation, right? So now you see why this game can feel a little punishing when you're trying to block. In addition to that, the final mechanic that we have in terms of meter is burst. Okay, so let's explain burst. Burst is basically a get out of jail free card, right? Say this Giovanna is pressuring me. I'm just getting pressured out my mind. You know, like, she's in my head. I can't get rid of her. And I don't have the meter. You can always burst out of a combo. And why is this important to burst out of a combo? Because for some characters, neutral space is where you want to play. So, depending on what character you're playing, bursts are good. Like, right here, if I'm playing Axel, I want to be at this mid-range. So I'm going to burst. And same way in the corner that I don't just have to burst defensively. If I'm sitting here and this Giovanna is like, I just don't want to deal with her mix, and I know that I cannot win this game unless I keep her in the corner, right? If she does choose to match back, I'm just going to burst back and get my turn again, because technically it's still your turn here, right? And now look what just happened because of that. So, keep that in mind, right? But also, you can burst while getting hit. So if you really don't want to take that string, you can burst. Right? I talked about this way more in my offense and in a combo video about why bursts are important and how you can use the combo, but those are all blue bursts. In this game, if you have 0% meter and not 0% meter, if you are in neutral and you choose to burst, which means that you're not currently getting hit, you're not currently getting comboed, you're in a state where you're not pressing anything to avoid anything, you just run up and press burst, or you gold burst after not really being in a disadvantageous state, you get gold burst. Alright, why is gold burst important, or what does it do? Look at the tension gauge. Say he runs up on me, I just know gold burst his way, I just got 100% meter. And meter is so important in this game because, yeah, stuff like that, right? Now, I don't have to play neutral as Soul, right? Literally, if I want to play Soul right now, what I could do, and now I'm in, right? So, that is also important to keep in mind, how you can use your burst. I don't recommend just being a gold burster and only looking for setups with gold burst, but I mean, people do it. If that's how you want to live your life, you know, go ahead, but keep in mind that there's no overarching option that's going to beat everything. That's the most important thing about defense, that no option beats everything. So you really need to take into account what you're doing and why you're doing it. Don't default. Even if you lose your first match or like 2 matches at first, don't default. A little defensive tip I have is that in this game it's very easy because of how frame advantage just works in this game. It's very easy for you just to keep taking pressure or keep taking damage. And I recommend that you try to figure out how to FD and YRC first before you do anything else, because sometimes this is going to happen, right? And then you press back. But I urge you, don't get too confident with teching right away. Yeah. So sometimes you're just gonna, this is gonna happen, and this, and this, and this, and this, and you're gonna want to tech. And sometimes it's okay to tech grab, because tech and grab on defense is a very good way of blowing up defense habits that aren't good. For example, if Giovanna does a low to ground thing like that and tries to grab, right? Most times out of 10, I can grab her, because she spaced it wrong and didn't actually try and melee afterwards. However, if she did it low to the ground and press the button, or sorry, that's a weird angle. If you did it low to the ground and press the button, it wouldn't work there, right? Because it's a real block string. But sometimes also, characters won't have a good air dash and they'll try and do it really high to the ground, and right there, it's always a grab punish, right? Because they did it too high to the ground. So grabs can help you punish a lot of buttons that you're not sure of because it's 2 frames. So if you ever feel like people are just on your face trying to get too much advantage, you can grab. But when I bring that up as a defense tip, I also want to encourage you to be careful not to tech grab all the time, right? Because tech grab is how you get blown up in this game, right? For example, I'm going to set Giovanna to grab tech after she blocks, right? Press throw. Because she knows I'm going to do that. And, you know, tech happens is good. But then what if I meaty? Right? So I don't always urge you to tech grab in this game. Instead, I urge you to figure out what the pattern is. Which means that it's okay to have this happen to you, right? It's okay. It's alright. Because let's compare. That's 74. What is that? So 159 off of a grab, but still, that's fine. He's using meter for that. You're gonna eat 159 off a meter regardless, right? Even if you get opened up by a hit. Sometimes you just have to take it, because once you do and you understand why you're getting hit or why you're mashing back, then you can start forming a strategy. Are you pressing in between the frame trap? Are you not properly resetting neutral? Are you not mashing back enough? Are you giving them too many turns? These are all common problems that you'll have, and truth be told, the only way you'll learn to deal with them is just by having people expose your problems on defense, right? Defense is always going to be hard to learn in the fighting game. And I never advocate for a game to... Well, look, regardless if a game has good defense or not, you know, it doesn't matter. You're still going to have to play the game if you want to play the game. So I urge you to understand why you're lying to a lot of these things and realize that some of your options may not always be as good as you think. Analyze all your options and see what happens. Because then, after you lose the first 3 games, maybe you're like, alright, every time he runs up and he grabs, right? So now this time, maybe I'm going to backdash his grab. Meaning that if he does try to run up and grab, just backdash. Right? And if you keep doing that, you're going to say, alright, I won. And then he switches this up, and now you're actually playing a fighting game. Now you're interacting with the opponent, there's push and pull to your actions, and you're seeing what happens. Alright. But that is all defense in terms of blocking. Let's talk about the wake-up game. This is always important in any fighting game. So, I will tell you real quick, the wake-up game, in my opinion, in Strive is kinda trash. And that's because, really, you can't really do much to get out of this, right? you can't really do much to counter that. And why can't you? Well, to put it quite simply, if you try to YRC this, right? Oh, I guess it's just a backdash and. Right. So, yeah. This is the difficulty because the wake-up game is the importance of any fighting game. Because if you try to YRC this, right? There, that's what happened. And now you're on Twitter. Now you're on Twitter on a t-shirt. So, let's be practical off the wake-up. This is where I feel like Strive really sucks because it doesn't give you enough options to deal with a lot of what this game has because offense is really good in this game. But on Wake Up, you just gotta hold that. And that's fine because in any fighting game with Wake Up, you just gotta hold that. But on Wake Up, you can grab, which is a little hard to do, I will say. But you can grab, you can meaty, and because meaty close slashes are so active, you can do a timing with it so that it hits very late on the active frames. You're aiming to throw out the close slash before they're even really up off the ground, right? So this is a timed one off of when they get up. You get punished. But if you're aiming to meaty slightly when you see them get up so that they fall into the close slash, or like, you know, wake up into it, then you can bait out a lot of baitable moves, which that baits RC, that baits burst. You know, so what can you do as the player? I'll be entirely honest with you, you just gotta hold that. Like, you just gotta hold that. There's a lot of times you do. Because even if you wanted to DP, right? You can't because, well, Giovanna's a bad example because her DP isn't, it isn't fully invincible. It's only head invincible. So Giovanna's DP isn't very good at showing this, but I'm still gonna show you an example because I think it's still applicable. If you try to DP, which is Dragon Punch, an invincible move, everybody, not everybody, but a lot of characters have them. The thing about DPs is that you can grab them, right? So why is that good? That's good because now it means that off of Wake Up, DP is no longer a valid option because you can grab DPs in this game. And grabs are 2-frame startup and DPs are not 2-frame startup. So because you can grab every DP in this game, the only real option you have that they have to block on Wake Up against your Wake Up, like the only option that they're really scared of is Wake Up Super. Because you can't grab Wake Up Super, you can't burst Wake Up Super, and you can't do anything with RC, right? You can block it though, but if you do block it, you're unsafe. But if you do have meter, it doesn't really matter that you're unsafe because you can RC it, right? Even if they do block it. But that's 100% meter just to survive one wake up. So wake ups are dangerous in this game just by themselves, but coupled with the fact that it's also an anime game and a lot of characters have very annoying moves to keep you grounded on wake up like Ino or Kai, right? It means that already a problem with this game, which in my opinion the defense is a little lacking, I'll say. Already a problem is that the offense is very good to establish, and because it's an anime game, there's a lot of crazy stuff happening in this game sometimes. But because the case, not only that, but off of regular characters that may not have all these extra gimmicks, you know, with moves that go crazy, they still have a really good wake up because, you know, you kind of just gotta hold this. You don't really have an option to deal with these things. So that's unfortunate. But like I said before, what you need to learn about wake up is that you've lost your turn, so it's now your time to hold something. And that's just on the opponent to win with that, right? But the good side about this is that most attacks don't lead hard knockdowns unless you hit 2D, and look at the damage you get from a 2D combo, right? Your entire goal is the mix after this combo. So that's the whole point of that. And yeah, but most times you won't have to be caught like that. But then again, a lot of characters have moves that give them Oki in some way. But standing Oki is a lot better than this. Alright. And also with that, the opponent doesn't have to just sit there and let you get up. They can also do OTGs, which means that they hit you off the ground and do some crazy stuff like that. But that's entirely different. So that's most of your defense options. Now there's one option I have not mentioned yet, and that's because I really don't believe in this option. But theoretically, if you can master this option, then this game does become a lot easier to play, and defense feels a lot more rewarding. And that is Just Defend or Instant Blocking. What is Just Defend? Well, you've seen what happens when Giovanna blocks regularly, right? Stands there. You see when she... You see what happens when she FDs, right? Farther away. Well, look what happens when she Just Defends or Instant Blocks. She's closer. So, IB makes you stand closer to the opponent. And this is good because moves that were previously not punishable, like Gold Burst, which by the way, I never explained this, but when you do Gold Burst, if you normally block a Gold Burst, you will not be able to punish it usually, right? So this is like, look how far it pushes you back. You really can't do much there, and I recover so fast if it hits, like. So, yeah, but if you IB it, oh, now you're close for a punish. And this is with a lot of moves. If you IB throws Far Slash, I want him to try and swing this in your face, right? But the problem with all of this theoretical thinking, also, if you IB something, it also removes Guard Crank, right? Or the... Not Guard Crank, not Risk Gauge, but it also reduces your health going down off of Guard Crush moves, right? Alright, and along with that, you can IBFD, which just super launches people. So before, now it launches me back, which is good because, bro, look, what am I pressing over here? So, really good defense mechanics, as you would think. However, for some reason, they wanted to change IB to 2 frames in this game. I believe it was to make it so that newcomers wouldn't feel the need to hit, you know, intricate buttons or time themselves to actually hit moves, because in order for you to IB, you have to hit a move in 2/60th of a second, which means that you have to switch from block or block at the very last second when the move hits. It is very hard to do. There we go. You see how many tries it just took me to do that? It is very hard to IB somebody. Also, it is very hard to IB consistently because, well, what if she just doesn't... Well, what if I'm timing this for one normal that she could do? Then she could do this at that point, or she could just do this, right? So IB is not very practical because you can't really time it to stop normals that just, you know, hit you off rip. And a lot of normals in this game hit you off rip, but what you can do for IB is time it during a string. For example, this is a very common Giovanna string. Something like that, right? So if I can time this IB for this, for that at the last second. Oh, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it. Jesus. This is dumb hard to do. There we go. If I time it for that moment, not only can I maybe punish that move, but I can also start my pressure by pressing another button. Right? Which, like I said, this is always more scary than this. But the thing is, because it's a 2-frame link, it is hard to reliably try to IB this game, especially when online, because online makes the game a little bit faster because it's it's rolling back different frames, so actually you're getting a little bit of input delay online. So it becomes a little hard to do this because you can't do it exactly. 2 frames isn't very practical in any game, really, I'd say. The parry window was 3 frames before, and people said that felt good, but who knows? Who knows what feels good? What feels good? Also, it's how the game feels, right? There could be a lot of problems with this, but it's not on the players to ever brainstorm problems for developers to fix. It's on them to fix these problems because they are making this game. But yeah, and the thing about it is that you're saying, all right, well, if IB sounds cool, I wish it was in the game. And people are IBing, but you gotta realize they're IBing in very low-stake, friendly matches that they've played each other in at least a set of like 82 multiple times, right? It's not hard to IB somebody after you've played them for time and time again, but everybody plays the game differently. There's literally a Kai player that's probably the best Kai right now, and he only plays Kai by walking forward, hitting 2P, and then delaying it with like certain buttons, right? So it's important to keep all this in mind when you play the game, right? Another very good option, I switched to Kai so that you guys could see this option play out better, is the idea of 6P. Alright. What is the 6P? Done by hitting forward and punch, forward and square. This move makes it so that your hurt box, which, to explain a hurt box, think of the fact that anytime Soul hits around Kai's like shoulder, we're gonna say, that's his hurt box. Or anytime I like that angle of his feet, he's gonna get hit. He's taking damage. He's hurt. 6P makes it so that let's have Soul just do 5Ks, right? Not even 5Ks. I'm gonna do 4 shots, right? 6Ps make it so that your hurt box moves to your toes. Alright, so what does that mean? That means that I can go through moves like that, right? Let's use a more extreme example, I want to say. When I have Soul air dash, do that late to the ground, right? I'm waiting for them to come out. Actually, I'm going to have him do it high to the ground, actually. So I'm going to have him air dash and do this high to the ground. Oh, yeah. Right? Like that. So if I do it right there, you see the sword starts to hit me and I punch through it. That's because the hitbox is at your toes. Why is this important? Alright, this is important because a lot of times in neutral, characters have really good buttons that they can just throw out. Like, for example, this, you know. Kai is a very good one because his slash, you can 6P it. So if you ever feel like a character has a really big button that's going to hit around your chest, if you have the call out in neutral, you can 6P to beat it, right? Never forget that. Also, it serves as a very good anti-air because if you do it late, you'll beat jumping attacks. Look how late I did that. I did that super late to the fact that it said punish. So that is very good. Remember, 6P is a great option to press. Alright. So, in addition to 6P, you also have air grab. Now, this is the last defensive tip I'm going to give you. Air grab is important in Air grab is important in Guilty Gear because this is your most reliable anti-air. I'm going to explain why. So in this game, you can block while in the air. Similar or different from other Guilty Gears, you can block while in the air. So say I have the read on Soul jumping. Well, now I just get a turn, and that's pretty good. But why get a turn when you could get damage? So if he does jump in the air, he cannot block an air grab in the air because he's getting grabbed, right? So let me use some more importance on this. That's good because you can chase people, but it's also good because if you call somebody out air dashing, why even try and get away with a 6P? Because yeah, 6P works there, right? What if they just do this and it's run at me and dash, right? Because now I do that and we're right back in neutral. I may have to hold another mix or they have another chance to get at me. While instead it could have been like that, right? Plus whatever combo into Oki I desire. So let me explain what's happening here. I'm doing air grab as a response rather than a action. What does that mean? I'm punishing his dash with air grab. Air dashers in this game are very slow because a whole symbol appears at the bottom before you do it. Meaning that if you're on the ground pressing a button, right, and so does air dashers, because air grab comes out so fast, you can respond to it jump with air grab. This also works double for people that like to do stuff like this. Right, so say Soul's gonna do that, right? So yeah, don't forget, air grab is very good. And if you have meter, you know, you can always make it hurt and get your situation. So yeah, that's all your defensive options in this game. And my biggest, my biggest thing for you is that you're gonna die, right? The biggest thing to take away from this video is that you're gonna die, and nothing that you can do will stop that from happening. Because, I mean, look at the damage in this game. Eventually, you're gonna guess wrong. You have to, all right? And it's gonna hurt when you do, because this game hurts, right? But none of that matters. Focus on improving, learning what you did wrong and how to combat it, and you'll have a great time in this game. Right now, I don't think Strive is in a place where you can really worry or care about winning in this game, because what if one day a Nagoriyuki player just wants to just do nothing but Beyblade, right? And even if you can deal with it, or he wants to do nothing but command grab, because a lot of fighting games are like this, you just gotta hold that. Like, that's just the way these games are. But at the same time, you can always improve to deal with it next time. So yeah, this is probably going to be the last video in this entire series, so I hope you guys enjoyed it in some way, shape, or form. I hope it helped you guys improve a little bit, and don't forget that this is all just the basis. You're just learning the building blocks of the game. There's so much more to learn about fighting games, like fuzzies, and proper neutral, and I talked a little bit about conditioning, but like mixing and a whole bunch of different ideas, but you need to first know where you're starting off at, and this is a very good starting point because you learned how to deal with defense, what defense means, and how to play Strive. So overall, I'm just saying, I hope these helped you in some way. Make sure to do all that good YouTube stuff in the comments or whatever the fuck you guys want to do. It don't really matter to me. But that's going to be it. So hope y'all have a good day, and that's all.